You know what fascinates me most about success? It's not the shiny cars, the big houses, or the fancy titles. What truly fascinates me is the price tag that comes with it, a price tag that's hidden from most people's view. I've spent decades studying successful people, and I'm here to share something powerful with you that might change your life forever. In this room, there are two types of people. There are those who will achieve everything they've ever dreamed of, and there are those who will spend their lives wondering what could have been. The difference between these two groups isn't talent, intelligence, or luck. It's their understanding of a fundamental truth. Success requires sacrifice. I remember sitting in my small apartment years ago, staring at my dreams written on a piece of paper, wondering why I couldn't achieve them. I was working hard, or at least I thought I was. I was putting in the hours, following the advice, doing what everyone else was doing. But something was missing. That's when I discovered the secret that changed everything for me. Success has a price, and that price must be paid up front. It's like a cosmic law that cannot be broken. Think about the last time you achieved something meaningful in your life. Maybe it was losing weight, earning a promotion, or building a relationship. Now think about what you had to give up to get it. That's not coincidence. That's the law of sacrifice in action. Every day you're making trades. Every single moment you're either trading your present comfort for your future success, or you're trading your future success for your present comfort. There's no middle ground, no comfortable compromise, no easy way out. But before I explain exactly how this works, I need you to understand something crucial. The path to extraordinary achievement isn't paved with random acts of deprivation. It's built on strategic sacrifices, sacrifices that might seem painful in the moment, but lead to incredible rewards. And that's exactly what we're going to explore together. The truth about sacrifice might surprise you. Most people think sacrifice means losing something, giving up something they love. But that's not what sacrifice really is. I discovered this truth during my early days, sitting in my car, eating a sandwich I could barely afford, dreaming of something bigger. Sacrifice is actually a tool, the most powerful tool you have for creating the future you want. Think about it like this. Every time you say yes to something, you're automatically saying no to something else. Every time you make a choice, you're sacrificing all other possible choices in that moment. I meet people all over the world who tell me they want success, but they're not willing to make the sacrifices necessary to achieve it. They want the corner office, but they're not willing to sacrifice their TV time. They want the perfect body, but they're not willing to sacrifice their comfort foods. They want financial freedom, but they're not willing to sacrifice their weekend shopping sprees. What I've learned, the quality of your sacrifices determines the quality of your success. Small sacrifices lead to small successes. Big sacrifices lead to big successes. This isn't philosophy, this is practical reality that I've seen play out thousands of times. Let me give you an example. When I started my journey, I made a decision that changed everything. I decided to sacrifice 2 hours of sleep every morning to study and learn. Was it comfortable? Absolutely not. Did I enjoy it? Not at first, but that sacrifice, those early morning hours when the rest of the world was sleeping, that's where I built the foundation of everything I have today. The most powerful thing about sacrifice is that it's not about giving up. It's about trading up. You're not losing anything. You're exchanging something of lower value for something of higher value. When you sacrifice your morning sleep to work on your dreams, you're not losing sleep. You're trading it for success. When you sacrifice mindless entertainment for education, you're not losing fun. You're trading it for growth. True sacrifice requires clarity. You must be absolutely clear about what you want and why you want it. Without this clarity, sacrifice feels like punishment. With clarity, sacrifice feels like investment. I remember a young entrepreneur who came to me frustrated about his lack of progress. He was working hard, but his business wasn't growing. When we looked closer, we discovered he wasn't really sacrificing. He was just struggling. There's a big difference. Sacrifice is strategic. Struggle is random. He was giving up sleep, but not to work on his business. Just because he was stressed, he was skipping meals, but not to invest in his business, just because he was disorganized. This brings me to a crucial point about the nature of sacrifice. It must be intentional. Random deprivation isn't sacrifice. It's just suffering. True sacrifice is calculated, purposeful, and directly connected to your goals. Every sacrifice should move you closer to where you want to be. Something I learned the hard way: the bigger the sacrifice, the easier it becomes. Why? Because big sacrifices require total commitment. When you're all in, there's no room for doubt, no energy wasted on second guessing. You're either in or you're out. This total commitment makes the sacrifice not just bearable, but empowering. The nature of sacrifice isn't about what you're giving up. It's about what you're going after. And once you truly understand this, everything changes. Your perspective shifts, your resistance fades, your power grows. Most people have it all wrong about success. They think success is a destination, a place you arrive at one day. They see it as that moment when they finally have enough money in the bank, or the perfect relationship, or the dream house. But I'm going to tell you something that took me years to understand. Success isn't a destination at all. It's a progression. I learned this lesson during my darkest moments when I was broke, discouraged, and ready to quit. I was measuring success all wrong, looking at other people's achievements and wondering why I couldn't get there overnight. Then it hit me. Those same people I admired didn't get there overnight either. True success is what you become in the process of pursuing your goals. It's the person you must grow into to achieve those dreams. The money, the recognition, the achievements, these are just byproducts of who you become along the way. Every time you make a sacrifice for your goals, you're not just giving something up, you're building something within yourself. You're building discipline when you wake up early, you're building courage when you take calculated risks. You're building wisdom when you invest in learning, instead of entertainment. I meet so many people who say, I will make the sacrifices once I see some success. But that's like saying, I will start saving money once I'm rich. It doesn't work that way. Success is born in trenches of sacrifice, in those moments when nobody's watching, when you're tired, when you're discouraged, but you keep going anyway. True success, it's not about what you get, it's about what you give. The most successful people I've met, truly successful, not just financially wealthy, understand this at their core, they've mastered the art of giving value first. They sacrifice their time, their energy, their comfort to create something valuable for others. Here's about true success that nobody tells you. It's personal. Your version of success might look completely different from mine, and that's exactly how it should be. But the principle remains the same. Whatever your vision of success, you must become the person capable of achieving it. I remember working with someone who had achieved everything society told him meant success. The high-paying job, the impressive title, the expensive car. But he was miserable because he hadn't achieved true success. He hadn't become who he needed to be. He had the trappings of success, but not the substance. This is why understanding true success is so crucial before you make any sacrifices. Because when you understand that success is about progression, not perfection, about becoming, not arriving, everything changes. Your sacrifices become investments in yourself. Your struggles become stepping stones. Your setbacks become setups for comebacks. Once you understand true success, you realize that you're already successful the moment you decide to pay the price, the moment you commit to the sacrifice, the moment you choose growth over comfort. Because in that moment, you've already begun the transformation. Nobody likes to talk about the price of greatness. They want to hear about the rewards, the recognition, the results. Something I wish someone had told me years ago, the price of greatness isn't just high, it's non-negotiable. I remember sitting in my car one night exhausted, wondering if it was all worth it. I had just finished my third presentation of the day. My voice was hoarse, my feet were aching, and I hadn't seen my family in days. That's when it hit me. This was the price, this moment of doubt, of physical exhaustion, of questioning everything. This was exactly what I had signed up for. The price of greatness isn't just about working hard. Everyone works hard. The price is about working hard when you don't feel like it. It's about maintaining your standards when nobody's watching. It's about pushing forward when everything inside you is screaming to quit. I meet people every day who tell me they're willing to pay the price. They say they'll do whatever it takes. But when I tell them whatever it takes actually means, they start backpedaling. They didn't realize that the price of greatness might mean missing their favorite TV shows. They didn't understand it might mean working weekends while their friends are partying. They weren't prepared for the loneliness that comes with being the only one pursuing excellence while others settle for average. What makes the price of greatness so demanding? You have to pay in advance, and there are no guarantees. You don't get to try it out first. You don't get a money-back guarantee. You pay the full price up front with faith that your investment will pay off? Any really great person you admire, behind their greatness lies a trail of sacrifices most people would never make. Behind their success stories are countless moments of choosing discomfort over convenience, growth over comfort, excellence over good enough. The price of greatness demands three currencies: your time, your energy, and your comfort. You must be willing to invest your time when others are wasting theirs. You must be willing to direct your energy toward your goals when others are scattered and unfocused. And you must be willing to step out of your comfort zone when others are playing it safe. What's fascinating about the price of greatness? It's actually a bargain. Because while you're paying the price, you're not just buying success, you're buying transformation. You're not just earning achievements, you're earning growth. Every payment you make toward greatness is actually an investment in becoming someone better, stronger, more capable. I've watched people try to negotiate this price. They look for shortcuts, easy paths, quick fixes, but there's something I've learned from decades of observance. The universe doesn't negotiate. The price is the price. You either pay it in full or you don't get the results. There's no middle ground, no payment plan, no discount rate. Price of greatness isn't just what you do. It's also what you don't do. It's the parties you don't attend, the purchases you don't make, the comfortable choices you don't take. Every no to distraction is adjusted to greatness. Every sacrifice of immediate pleasure is an investment in long-term success. Over the years, I've watched thousands of people transform their lives through the power of strategic sacrifice. And what's fascinating is that certain patterns emerge, specific sacrifices that appear again and again on the road to extraordinary achievement. These aren't random acts of denial. They're calculated investments in future success. The first sacrifice successful people make is sleep. Now, I'm not talking about burning yourself out or destroying your health. I'm talking about those extra hours early in the morning when your mind is fresh and the world is quiet. I discovered this truth when I was starting out, struggling to find time to learn and grow. The solution was simple but not easy. Wake up at 5 a.m. Instead of 7 a.m. Those 2 hours became my golden time, my personal university. What's interesting about sacrificing sleep, it's not really about the sleep at all. It's about what you do with those extra hours. Successful people don't just wake up early to wake up early. They wake up early with a purpose, with a plan, with a commitment to personal growth. The second major sacrifice is immediate pleasure. This might be the hardest one for most people to accept. In our world of instant gratification, delaying pleasure feels almost unnatural. I remember sitting in my small apartment, watching my friends buy new cars, go on expensive vacations, enjoy fancy dinners. Meanwhile, I was driving an old car, eating simple meals, and investing every spare dollar into my future. Successful people understand something crucial about pleasure. They don't eliminate it. They postpone it. They trade immediate gratification for long-term satisfaction. They sacrifice the good now for the great later. While others buy liabilities that depreciate, they invest in assets that appreciate, especially in themselves. The third sacrifice is one nobody likes to talk about: relationships. Now, I don't mean sacrificing all relationships or isolating yourself. I mean being selective about who you spend your time with. This was one of the toughest lessons I had to learn. Some friendships, some relationships, some social circles, they just don't serve where you're going. I remember having to make a difficult choice early in my career. My closest friends at the time were comfortable with mediocrity. They weren't bad people. They just had different aspirations. Every time I talked about goals, about dreams, about building something significant, they would pull me back down. Eventually, I had to sacrifice those comfortable relationships to find people who would push me to grow. The fourth sacrifice is certainty. This one's subtle, but powerful. Successful people sacrifice the certainty of an average life for the uncertainty of an exceptional one. They give up the predictable paycheck for the unpredictable opportunity. They sacrifice the known for the unknown, the safe for the possible. I see this all the time. People clinging to jobs they hate because they're certain. They sacrifice their dreams on the altar of security. But here's what I've learned. The only real security comes from your ability to produce results. Everything else is an illusion. The fifth sacrifice might surprise you. It's ego. Successful people sacrifice their need to be right, to look good, to have all the answers. They're willing to look foolish in the short term to be successful in the long term. They sacrifice their pride to ask questions, to seek help, to admit when they're wrong. I learned this lesson the hard way. Early in my career, I thought I had to have all the answers. I thought admitting ignorance was a sign of weakness. But the moment I sacrificed that ego, when I started asking questions, seeking mentors, admitting what I didn't know, that's when real growth began. The most important part about all these sacrifices, they compound. Each sacrifice builds on the previous one. The sleep you sacrifice creates time for learning. The pleasure you postpone becomes capital for investment. The relationships you choose carefully become partnerships for growth. The certainty you give up opens doors to opportunity. The ego you sacrifice allows wisdom to enter. Now here's something that changed everything for me. Something I discovered after years of watching people either succeed or fail at making necessary sacrifices. The difference wasn't in their capabilities. It wasn't in their opportunities. It was in their minds. The mental game of sacrifice is where the real battle is won or lost. I remember the exact moment this hit me. I was working with someone who had every advantage, education, connections, resources, but they couldn't make the sacrifices stick. Meanwhile, someone else with far fewer advantages was consistently making sacrifices and moving forward. The difference? Their mental approach to sacrifice. Your mind will play tricks on you when it comes to sacrifice. It will tell you that you're losing something. It will remind you of what you're giving up. It will flood you with doubts about whether it's worth it. This is normal. This is natural. This is the resistance that every successful person has had to overcome. The secret I discovered is the sacrifice isn't about willpower. It's about perspective. When you view sacrifice as punishment, it becomes unbearable. When you view it as investment, it becomes empowering. This isn't positive thinking. This is practical psychology at work. Every time you make a sacrifice, your mind goes through a battle. One part of you wants to grow, to achieve, to become more. Another part wants to stay comfortable, to avoid pain, to maintain the status quo. The winner of this battle isn't determined by how much willpower you have. It's determined by how you frame the sacrifice in your mind. I learned to play this mental game differently. Instead of focusing on what I was giving up, I started focusing on what I was giving myself. When I sacrificed sleep, I wasn't losing rest. I was gaining time. When I sacrificed immediate pleasures, I wasn't losing enjoyment. I was gaining power. When I sacrificed certain relationships, I wasn't losing friends. I was gaining growth opportunities. The mental game of sacrifice requires you to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. You must learn to embrace the discomfort of sacrifice as a signal that you're growing, that you're moving in the right direction. I remember nights when I would question everything. My mind would flood with doubts. Was I crazy for giving up a stable career? Was I foolish for investing so much in myself when others were enjoying life? These moments of doubt are normal. They're part of the mental game. The key isn't to eliminate these thoughts. It's to push through them. Successful people don't have fewer doubts. They just have stronger convictions. They've trained their minds to focus on the outcome rather than the sacrifice. They've learned to silence the voice of immediate gratification and amplify the voice of long-term vision. This mental shift transforms sacrifice from a burden into a badge of honor. Every sacrifice becomes proof that you're serious about your goals. Every uncomfortable moment becomes evidence that you're growing stronger. Every doubt you push through becomes a foundation for future confidence. And here's something crucial about the mental game of sacrifice. It gets easier with practice, not because the sacrifices become smaller, but because your mental muscles become stronger. Your capacity to embrace discomfort grows. Your ability to focus on the long term expands, just like physical strength. Your ability to sacrifice is a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows stronger with consistent exercise. I discovered this principle during my early days when I was struggling to maintain my commitments. What I realized changed everything. Sacrifice isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop. The first time you tried to sacrifice something meaningful, maybe it was sleeping in, or your favorite TV show, or that expensive purchase you wanted to make. It felt impossible, didn't it? Your whole body and mind fought against it. That's because your sacrifice muscle was weak. But here's the fascinating part. Every time you follow through with a sacrifice, that muscle gets stronger. I remember starting small. My first real test was giving up 1 hour of television each evening. Just 1 hour. It sounds simple now, but back then it was a genuine struggle. That single hour became my training ground. Each night I succeeded. My sacrifice muscle grew slightly stronger. Soon 1 hour became 2. Small sacrifices became bigger ones. What once felt impossible began to feel natural. Most people make the mistake of trying to make massive sacrifices right from the start. They tried to transform their entire life overnight. It's like walking into a gym for the first time and trying to lift the heaviest weights. You're setting yourself up for failure. The key is progressive overload, gradually increasing the weight of your sacrifices. Start with something small but significant. Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's skipping one social media session each day. Maybe it's saving 5% of your income instead of spending it. These small sacrifices might not seem life-changing, but they're meant to be muscle builders. What happens is your sacrifice muscle grows stronger. What once required intense willpower becomes automatic. The internal resistance diminishes. The voice that used to scream, "I can't do this," becomes quieter and quieter. You develop what I call sacrifice momentum. Each sacrifice makes the next one easier. Something crucial you need to understand about building your sacrifice muscle. It requires consistent exercise. You can't work out once a month and expect to get stronger. The same applies to sacrifice. It needs to become part of your daily routine, your normal way of operating. I've watched people transform their lives using this principle. They start with tiny sacrifices. So small, they almost seem insignificant, but they do them consistently, day after day. Over time, these small sacrifices compound. Their sacrifice muscle grows stronger. What once seemed impossible becomes their new normal. They develop a capacity for sacrifice that amazes even themselves. There's a universal principle at work in your life right now that most people never understand. I call it the law of compensation. Simply put, the universe pays you back in proportion to the sacrifices you make and the value you create. Nothing is ever lost. Everything comes back multiplied. I discovered this truth during my darkest moments when it seemed like all my sacrifices were going nowhere. I was putting in the hours, making the tough choices, giving up immediate pleasures, but seeing no results. Then something remarkable happened. All those sacrifices, all that delayed gratification, all those difficult choices, they started paying off, not just in one area, but in every area of my life. When you sacrifice something valuable today for something more valuable tomorrow, you set in motion a powerful force. The universe keeps perfect accounting. Every hour invested in learning comes back as expertise. Every dollar saved in dollars and invested comes back as financial freedom. Every moment spent building genuine relationships comes back as opportunities. A farmer planting seeds. There's a gap between planting and harvesting. During that gap, it looks like nothing is happening. The farmer could easily become discouraged, thinking all their sacrifice of time, energy, and resources is wasted. But under the surface, those seeds are growing, multiplying, preparing for a harvest that will far exceed what was planted. Your sacrifices work the same way. When you give up that extra hour of sleep to work on your dreams, you're planting seeds. When you choose to invest instead of spend, you're planting seeds. When you sacrifice comfort for growth, you're planting seeds. And just like the farmer, your harvest will multiply what you planted. The key that most people miss, the law of compensation works in both directions. When you refuse to sacrifice, when you choose immediate gratification over long-term growth, you're also setting forces in motion. You're choosing a smaller future harvest for a tiny pleasure today. I've watched this law play out countless times. Those who understand and align themselves with it prosper beyond their expectations. Those who ignore it wonder why life never seems to give them a break. The difference isn't luck. It's understanding and applying this universal principle. Now let me share something practical with you. Something you can use starting today. The difference between successful people and others isn't just that they make sacrifices. It's that they make strategic sacrifices. They understand that not all sacrifices are created equal. I learned this the hard way, sacrificing things that didn't matter while holding on to things that were holding me back. That all changed when I developed a simple but powerful system for making strategic sacrifices. I call it the 3 circles of sacrifice. The first circle is time. Look at your typical day. Where are you spending time that isn't moving you toward your goals? I discovered I was spending 3 hours every day on activities that weren't contributing to my success. Mindless television, unproductive conversations, aimless web browsing, those 3 hours redirected toward purposeful activity became the foundation of my transformation. The second circle is comfort. This is where you identify the comfortable routines and habits that are keeping you average. Maybe it's sleeping in when you should be up working on your dreams. Maybe it's staying in a job that's beneath your potential because it's safe. Perhaps it's avoiding difficult conversations that could lead to breakthrough opportunities. The third circle is relationships. This is often the hardest but most crucial circle. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they elevating you or anchoring you? Are they pushing you toward your dreams or pulling you toward mediocrity? Sometimes the most important sacrifice is being willing to outgrow relationships that no longer serve your vision. What makes this system powerful? You're not just randomly giving things up. You're strategically eliminating what doesn't serve your future to make room for what does. Every sacrifice has a purpose. Every no is actually a yes to something better. You don't make all these sacrifices at once. Start with one circle. Master it. Then move to the next. The systematic approach ensures your sacrifices stick. It builds momentum. It creates lasting change rather than temporary bursts of motivation. Right now, in this moment, you're standing at a crossroads. The path to your left is comfortable, familiar, and safe. It's the path of least resistance, where sacrifices are avoided and comfort is preserved. The path to your right is challenging, uncertain, but filled with possibility. It's the path of strategic sacrifice, where every step forward builds the foundation for an extraordinary life. I've walked both paths. I know the allure of comfort, the seductive whisper of maybe tomorrow, the rationalization that good enough is good enough. But I also know the exhilaration of choosing growth over comfort, of making sacrifices that transform not just your circumstances, but who you are as a person. Your life right now is the sum total of the sacrifices you've been willing or unwilling to make. Everything you have or don't have is the result of what you've been willing to give up or what you've insisted on holding on to. That same principle means your future is literally in your hands right now. The sacrifices you make starting today will determine where you are 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until the sacrifice feels comfortable. It never will. Start today. Start small if you must, but start. Give up one thing that's holding you back. Sacrifice one comfort that's keeping you average. Take one step toward the extraordinary life you know